Hey guys. So I tried to do this earlier, but I guess the audio didn't record. Hopefully it does now, since this is the on-camera mic I'm using. Um, but I wanted to come on here and talk about, the fact that, you know, about a month ago, I think it's going on a month, now, this week or this coming week. But it's been about a month since, the way people pretty much viewed Pokemon for the past several decades has come to an end, continuity wise and all that, character wise and everything through the manga and the anime. You know, Ash Ketchum, who has always been the main protagonist throughout all the Pokemon spin-offs and the original series, as well as, like I said, the original manga and its spin-offs too, along with countless movies, pretty much has achieved his goal, and that goal is to be a Pokemon master. And because of that, they decided to close the chapter on his journey, basically close his book and begin writing the first couple of pages of a new one with new characters, new Pokemon, new allies, adversaries, you name it. And I want to talk about this because I look at what I look at from a fan's perspective. Now, I haven't been the biggest Pokemon fan, period, but I have been a fan of pretty much a card game very similar, if not more so at times, in its history than Pokemon. That being Yu-Gi-Oh. And I looked at it from from the perspective of the fact that after the first three Yu-Gi-Oh animes and mangas, that being the OG Yu-Gi-Oh, not the Yu-Gi-Oh Zero as it's known, but the one that came afterwards. From the OG Yu-Gi-Oh to the GX continuation in 5D, and then finally with 5Ds, I looked at them. You know, I looked at them as the standard bearers of Yu-Gi-Oh. So when 5Ds came to an end with its, as I put it, movie finale crossover, where you had Yusei and Jaden from GX, and you had Yugi from the original series teaming up, crossing over, against the villain Paradox. You know, I looked at the fact that nothing's going to be able to top it. And we've had other animes and mangas come out afterwards, like Arc V, um, V Reigns, and I think the new one that's out right now as we speak. And although they still get attention, get people invested and all that, I just feel, being on the outside looking in, still a fan, basically. I look at the fact that they're not capturing that same vibe and magic, if you will, that the first three before them, captured, during their existence. And the reason I bring this up when it comes to Pokemon is I feel that the new generation of Pokemon characters and and stories and everything that's coming now is gonna probably end up in a similar situation to where basically they're not going to be able to capture that same magic and vibe that the Ash Ketchum series of stories, movies, animes, and mangas were able to capture throughout its duration over the past several decades. Now, I'm not trying to say it won't. I'm not. Now, here's the thing. I'm not trying to say it won't probably do that. It probably will. But I'm trying to look at it from a realistic standpoint that the only thing that's going to keep it going is fans' love for Pokemon. That's what's going to keep. That's what's going to keep it going. And that the only reason they'll get invested to want to watch an episode here and there or read, a certain volume of the manga and everything, is to see what new Pokemon are being introduced that eventually will become a physical reality that they could try to buy and add to their, Pokemon card collection itself, as well as hope to pretty much add as potential DLC for any future Pokemon Nintendo games down the line. That's the only reason these new series, in my opinion, might capture a little bit of investment and intrigue, mostly because fans will want to see what new Pokemon are coming here and there. That's about it. You know, it's the same thing with Yu-Gi-Oh. You like I said, Arc V, V Reigns, and the new one. People are still invested. They still watch, but they're more invested, and interested into what new monster cards or spell cards or trap cards or equipment cards or fusion cards and all that are being introduced. That's what they're more invested in, than anything. I mean, I'm not saying the characters can't get them invested. I'm not saying the stories can't get them invested, but we're at a point right now to where, it's more about, what cards, what monster cards are we going to see, show up in the anime, in the manga. You know, it's basically that we're basically at that point right now in history. The same with I feel is going to be happening with Pokemon. We're going to get to that point where they're going to try their best with this new anime, this new manga, featuring a new group of new cast of characters, new leads. I think they're going to be siblings or something like that, in their Pokemon. But I think the only thing that's going to get people invested and interested to see exactly where they go from here with it is basically the Pokemon that they get introduced. Like if they hear a little bit of a hearsay, nearsay, if you will, of I hear this Pokemon's going to show up in this episode of the new series, and then eventually in the manga, or I hear this Pokemon's going to show up during the second part of this two-parter, but there's going to be hints of it in the first part. That's why I think we're going to be heading to where the only reason certain episodes will be watched or certain volumes of manga will be read is to get a glimpse at the new Pokemon that fans will hope to add to the card collection, down the line. That's about it. That's the reality in my opinion. And again, I say this because you're basically you know you're basically putting away, closing the door on a nearly 2 decade plus run of a story with this one character that seemed to never age. The design would change a little bit, for his character. There's no questioning that, but the overall feeling is that it's not going to be the same. I mean, I can tell you from experience when growing up in the 80s, when Transformers, I went to season 3 and it was continuing off of the movie. Yeah, I was happy Transformers was there. I was glad to see it. But looking back on it, myself and many fans that grew up at that time, felt like something was a little off about season 3. It's like, yeah, we had some familiar characters, but here we had this new group of characters that came in during the movie. Here we have this new leader in Rodimus Prime. And even though we enjoyed what we were watching, mostly because we wanted to see what new toys would show up and everything, it felt like something was different. It felt like something, just wasn't the same. It felt like something was off. And the only time it picked back up, it got people's interest once again, was during the season 3 two-part finale, which some dub as the, unofficial sequel or official sequel to the 86 Transformer movie, the return of Optimus Prime, and you brought back Optimus Prime. And then, of course, you had Rebirth with him involved in that, which was the finale to the series. And that's the only time investment and intrigue, when you look back on it now as a grown-up, in the 40s, that's the only time it really picked up. It got people's attention, was at that time. So, to me, I feel that the only way, Pokemon is ever going to get back to that, upper echelon that it used to be at for the past several decades, is if they have a return of Ash Ketchum. Even if Ash is grown up now, married to, maybe he's married to freaking Misty, who knows, and everything, but, or maybe he's married to Dawn, who knows. But point is, the only way I think people will get invested is if you bring those characters back. You bring them back in a huge way. That at least shows that you still pay, that you still acknowledge where, the popularity of Pokemon came from a character perspective, anime and manga perspective, in the process, of trying to get this new one over. But I feel basically that it's just not going to be the same anymore. I feel like they're going to basically kind of fall off, if you will. They're going to fall off, and it's it's going to be it's just not going to be the same, is what it is. I feel it's not going to be the same game like it used to be. Again, going back to Yu-Gi-Oh, Yu-Gi-Oh fell off a little bit because it changed after 5Ds. There was like you still had that connection, and anytime you would get that connection and everything, you know, that was great. People were happy and everything that you were giving them that connection, but it still felt like something was off. Even with like V Reigns and Arc V, bringing in little memorials of characters like Dark Magician Girl, Dark Magician Blue Eyed Dragon, and all that. A character that may or may not be Yugi, as as a way older version, like a sage, if you will. Despite the fact that you've done that, and it did get people talking, it still felt like something was off. Something was not, ever going to be. It felt like things were not just the same anymore. And I feel that that's where Pokemon is going. And I'm not saying that because I don't like Pokemon. I'm just saying that, like I said, as someone that's been there and done that, based on the experience as a fan. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong, and I'll get proven, and Pokemon will become more popular than ever. Who knows? But let me know what your thoughts are. Do you think I'm onto something here? Comment below, live chat during the premiere. And until next time, I'm